Howdy everybody, this is Omar, your Audio Amigo, here today with another normal Audio Amigo review. Today we're going to be looking at the new hybrid IEM from our friends over at Kinera. This is the Kinera Celest IgniteX Beast. It's a new hybrid IEM from Kinera's sub-brand known as Celest. It features a single dynamic driver plus balanced armature setup. It is priced at $50. We just finished looking at the Inawakened Dawn, so here comes yet another IEM fighting for a slice of that $50 market. Does it get a full piece, or will it be left fighting over the scraps? Let's find out. So we'll start with the box contents. Inside the box, you'll find a card that details the origins of the Ignite Beast in Chinese mythology, just like the Wyvern Abyss. In fact, the entire unboxing experience for the Ignite Beast is identical to the experience on the Wyvern Abyss. You get the IEMs, you get the very similar cable, you even get the same set of balanced silicone ear tips that you get on the Wyvern Abyss. This is different in that you get a second set of ear tips. These are more standard bore silicone tips. But honestly, that's it as far as accessories go. I mentioned this in my unboxing video, but I personally feel that for $50, this is kind of disappointing. It's like the sort of bare minimum level of accessories. Kinera themselves gave us a leather carry pouch and a cleaning brush on the Gumiho, which is the exact same price as this. I understand that the Ignite Beast is, using 3D printed resin shells versus, the molded plastic on the Gumiho, but I feel like this level of packaging and included accessories doesn't really stack up to the level that, honestly, Kinera set for themselves. The Gumiho, if you look at the packaging and everything comes with it, feels like a proper upgrade over the Wyvern Abyss if you unbox it. This has the exact same unboxing experience as the $30 IEM. And while I understand that the money that they saved, they probably put into the IEM itself, it's still a bit disappointing. So let's take a closer look at that cable I mentioned. This here is essentially just a black version of the sort of ashy gray cable that you get on the Wyvern Abyss. It feels a little rubbery on the skin, but not in an unpleasant way. It's not microphonic, even though it's got those ridges on there. It behaves well. It has some nice Celeste branding on the 3.5mm connector, which is metal. The Y-split is also metal, and the chin slider works really well thanks to that sort of rubbery connection on the rubbery coating on the wires. The ear hooks have a rubberized coating on them. Doesn't feel uncomfortable on the ears. These are pretty good ear hooks. And the 2-pin connectors also have a metal covering on them with clearly visible R and L indicators, even if they're not colored. Yeah, I mean, this is a good cable. As I said, it's basically identical to the one on the Wyvern Abyss, just in a different color. So, time to talk about the build. I think these are really nice looking. These are 3D printed resin shells like on the Wyvern Abyss, but these are smoked. So you can, if you look at them at the right angle, you can sort of make out the drivers on the inside, which is really nice. These are semi-custom shaped. You can see all the bulges and protrusions on them. The shape is similar, but not identical to the Wyvern Abyss. I feel like this valley here is a bit shallower here than on the Wyvern Abyss, and I feel like this bulge here and maybe some overall size is a bit larger than on the Wyvern Abyss. The nozzles are blended and part of the lower shell. They have metal filters on them to protect from debris. There are also no vents on the bottom of the shell, but like on the Wyvern, they have a single vent here on the sort of back of the IEM. While this might not seem like enough, I didn't have any issues with driver flex on these. You get a Celeste logo here on the bottom above that little bulge or protrusion. Overall, the construction quality on these, I think, is excellent. These feel like an IEM in the sort of $70 to $100 range. And while it's less impressive considering that this set is essentially just a refresh of the design on the Wyvern, they still feel super solid in the hands. I haven't seen anybody have any build quality issues with the Wyvern, so I assume that these should be good as well. All right, let's pull up the specs. So these are a single DD and single balanced armature hybrid. The dynamic driver is an LCP diagram, and the balanced armature is listed as a Celest 112 unit, 10012. These two drivers together have an impedance of 16 ohms and a sensitivity of 106, meaning that you should be able to drive these with basically any source, even phones or laptops. The BA driver and the added size mean that these shells are a gram or so heavier than the ones on the Wyvern Black, but the total weight is still nice and light compared to some of the metal-shelled IEMs in this range. The nozzles are a little bit above average in terms of diameter and size, so we'll see how those combine for comfort a little later. But overall, there's nothing too stand out in terms of specs or driver configuration, so let's move on. It is now time for the cool wall. The IgniteX Beast actually has quite a lot going for it here. Custom-shaped, semi-custom shells like this always look really cool, even if they're not ideal for everyone's ears. And the smoked plastic, I think, is a fantastic upgrade over the Wyvern Abyss. Just seeing the sound tubes and the drivers tucked in there is really nice. I ordered very early, so I was able to get the version with the different faceplates. I was originally going to get the sort of purple-pink version, but when I saw you could get both, I got both because I like being able to tell right and left apart just at a glance. Yeah, I think these are really nice looking. As much as I liked the smoke plastic and the desert sort of sand-inspired design, it just doesn't have the same wow factor for me personally as the dragon scales on the Wyvern. So this just misses out on Sub-Zero, but earns a spot in cool quite easily. But now it's time to see how this IEM stacks up against the discerning tastes of the Council of Ladies. So, let's get right into it. 4-1 in terms of if this is pretty or not. Overall, a pretty good showing for these. It's one of the better scores. Those numbers also translate directly into their answers in terms of compliments, another 4-1 vote. I did ask them before I ordered what color they preferred, because I wanted to order their preferred color, and they unanimously chose the purple and pink version, so that's the preferred version for them. But let's get into their comments. It looks like they vibe with the colors and the design. These are vaguely Lisa Frankish. I have to agree with that one. And yeah, while not as cool looking as the Wyvern, I still think these are an absolutely gorgeous looking set overall. So well done with that, Kinera. So let's go to comfort. While these are still very comfortable IEMs for me, and I was able to wear these for long periods of time with zero issues, I feel like the Ignite Beast is very sensitive to insertion depth. And because these are semi-custom shaped shells, not everybody is going to be able to fit these the same way. While I was using these, I found that, more so than the Wyvern at least, the bass response and hence the overall tonality of this set changed drastically depending on how deep they are in your ear canals. If you have a bad seal or you have these fitted pretty shallow, the bass quality is going to, in my opinion, drop off pretty severely. Now, that's a thing with most IEMs. You don't have a good seal, you're going to lose all your bass impact. But I feel like it was especially pronounced on this set, even with a shallower fit with a decent seal. The main reason I feel, without 3D scanning these, that I think that these are bigger than the Wyvern is that it took me a lot longer to find a good seal with my default ear tips compared with the Wyvern. Other than that, once I did get the seal, I had no real issues with fitment. It just took me a little bit of moving around to get it. But like I said, once I had the seal, it stayed put, it maintained it, it worked well. Like the Wyvern Abyss, these did pass my wife's tiny ears test. Something about Kinera's custom shape just means that they sit really well in her eensy-weensy little ears. The nozzle isn't so wide that it deforms her preferred ear tips, which are SpinFit CP100 and extra small. Overall, the advice that I gave you for the Wyvern Abyss holds true here. These are semi-custom shells. These will either fit your ear extremely well and you'll be very happy, or they won't fit at all and you'll send them back. So if you're going to get these, I would recommend either demoing them, if you know someone who has them, try them out, or purchase from a reputable store that lets you return them, no questions asked. Alright, so let's jump into the audio evaluation. I test using multiple sources. All my sources are listed in the video description. There's a couple new ones in there. And unless I say otherwise, all testing is done with my SpinFit CP145 ear tips. We'll start, as always, with the bass. The bass here is boosted, not to insane levels, but enough to give the lows a good presence. The Carnage Trap remix of Hardwell's Spaceman has decent enough sub-bass rumble to remain faithful to the replay, but I personally would like a bit more bass energy here, at least on this particular track. Kick drums and bass guitar are quite good as well. The bass guitar in Curtis Mayfield's Pusherman doesn't get lost in the mix, and the plucks and releases on the strings have good ringing sounds to them, and they come through well on this set. The boost to the bass doesn't come across as overdone or even that much, to be honest. I feel like this is enough bass that I feel most people will be happy with it. I personally would like a little bit more punch and rumble, but I also know that people prefer a more subdued presentation sometimes. In the mid-range, the presentation is clean and unbothered by the mild bass boost. Male vocals are uncolored and unemphasized. Garth Brooks's Friends in Low Places is a really smooth playback. If I had to nitpick, I wish the guitars had a little bit more body to them. Some of the instruments can come off a tiny bit recessed, but in my opinion doesn't outright ruin the replay. There's good separation here. In contrast to the male vocals, however, female vocals have a little bit of an emphasis that I think works good. Wink's cover of Kylie Minogue's Turn It Into Love has the twins' vocals nice and forward, sort of the center of attention, emphasized but not to the point where they become overpowering or shouty. It's just so that the emphasis stays on them. The mids on the Ignite Beast, I would say, are clean, with a bit of an emphasis on female vocals and a slight recession to some instruments. The upper mids and treble are also boosted, but to varying degrees. The upper mids have quite a healthy boost to them. They give the vocals that forwardness that we talked about. The harmonics are generally clean. There can be a little bit of delayed decay to some of these sustained vocal notes, like in Nightwish's Elven Path. It makes the vocals sound a little bit more emphasized and less natural than I personally prefer. But some people like that sound. They prefer the extra emphasis. I think it actually works pretty well with Tharja's operatic vocals in Elven Path, but other vocalists might not come off as natural sounding and will sound more exaggerated. In terms of upper treble harmonics, Pierre Henry's Psych Rock really lets the BA in here show off its prowess, especially in the upper frequencies. I personally didn't find the electronic tones, sweeps in this song or the cymbals in other songs to be fatiguing, but there is a good amount of energy up here, and I can see this, as well as, the percussion and things, becoming fatiguing for some folks, so just be careful. We'll move on to technicalities, and as you would expect from a hybrid, I think it's a pretty good showing. The dynamic driver does a good job down at the low end. It has enough oomph to pass my black cow test. The echo is in the left ear. It sounds appropriately distant, maybe lacking a tiny bit of energy, but it also doesn't overblow the echo like some bassier sets can. In terms of upper end technicalities, you will definitely feel the presence of that balanced armature. The subtle ride cymbal in the left ear of Britney Spears' Toxic is very clear and very present in the mix. If you haven't heard it before, this will definitely make it easier to hear if you're paying attention to the track. I feel like this set has very good technical performance for the price. It's what I would expect from a hybrid set. So let's talk about stereo separation and soundstage. Ted Nugent's Stranglehold and that cymbal slide effect that goes ear to ear works really well in this set. I never got a claustrophobic or closed-in feeling while listening to music on these. I feel like they're nice and wide for that sort of thing. The good treble performance helps with the perceived 3D soundstage. Stan Getz's Samba Triste is very well replayed here. The guitar in your left ear, the bass feels like it's behind you and to the right, the drums are immediately behind you, and the saxophone is to the left. These drivers combined with this tuning won't hold back any well-mastered tracks. I feel like stereo separation is very good, and the perceived 3D soundstage is very well resolved here. Okay, but time for comparisons. Even though there's a slightly boosted bass here, to me the IgniteX Beast comes off more as a bright-leaning V-shape. I feel like Kinera wanted you to be aware that they put a BA in here doing the work in the top end, and that's the effect of the tuning. For today's comparisons, I chose mostly some hybrids and a couple of single DDs that I feel would make for an interesting comparison. I'll try to keep this relatively brief. So we'll start with, to me, what was the most obvious comparison. It's little brother, the Wyvern Abyss, priced at $30. As I've covered already, these two share a cable, a box design, and the general shell shape. The tuning, however, is different. As I mentioned, Kinera wants you to know they put a BA in here. That means the IgniteX Beast comes across as brighter sounding and a bit more technical than the Wyvern. I feel like the bass has a bit less punch and emphasis compared to the Wyvern, mostly because the focus is more on the treble. The treble is overall brighter, much more energetic. In terms of resolution, the IgniteX Beast, I feel, is definitely an upgrade over the Wyvern, but if you're treble sensitive, this isn't really the upgrade because it might be a bit too much for you. Next up is the $40 single DD darling, the Simgot EW200 Maze. Yes, I know that's the box for the 500 LM. I don't have the box for the 200. So these two are actually very, very similar, at least to my ears. They're both bright-leaning V-shapes with top-notch detail retrieval and excellent technical performance. The Beast is a bit more vocal forward and a bit more detailed overall than the Maze, but the Simgot is a bit punchier in the bass and, in my opinion, a bit more balanced. In terms of the treble, both are bright, but in sort of slightly different ways. It's a bit difficult to explain, but I feel like certain harmonics are more emphasized in one compared to the other, so it will depend on entirely how you personally perceive treble. You might find the Maze fatiguing, but not the Beast. Others, it might be the other way around. What I will say personally is that if you find the EW200 fatiguing, you will most likely find the Beast fatiguing, and vice versa. I feel like cymbals are a bit more, let's say, spicy and exciting on the Ignite Beast, but the rest of the treble harmonics are a bit more spicy and exciting on the Maze. In terms of looks, I think the Beast absolutely smacks the Maze around, but the Maze is $10 cheaper, and it does come with a carry pouch. So you'll have to decide if that little bit of extra detail from the balanced armature is worth the extra cash. If you're sensitive to balanced armature, timbre, or tonality, then definitely go for the Maze. Next up, we have Kinera's other $50 hybrid IEM. Just got this one in. This is the Gumiho. The Gumiho, instead of using a dynamic driver, is using a square planar driver. I know it's not a real planar, but we're not talking about that right now. These are molded shells as opposed to the 3D printed resin on the Beast. This also comes with a carry pouch, a metal charm, a cleaning brush, and an overall nicer unboxing experience. I also prefer the cable here, just barely though. This is still a very nice cable. In terms of tuning and sound, however, honestly, the Beast comes off, to me anyway, like a more refined version of the Gumiho. The mids are less recessed, the treble is less wonky, and the only place where I feel like the Gumiho straight up beats the Beast is in female vocals. They're even more forward on here than on the Beast, and they're more emphasized with the same emphasized harmonics. They're both what I would call bright V shapes, but I just feel like the Beast is just the cleaner sounding of the two. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get the Gumiho. This might be getting discontinued. I'm not sure. I've basically all seen it on sale for between 25 to 40 bucks. If you can get it for like 25, 30, I think this is the better value, especially considering the accessories, but the Beast does sound nicer overall. Finally, we have what is my personal favorite 1+1 hybrid in this price range. It is the $60 7Hz Sonus. The Sonus, in my opinion, is sort of the 1+1 hybrid to beat in this sort of price range. It is the most balanced hybrid in this price range. I would describe the sound as sort of hexa-ish. It's like a slightly more V-shaped neutral. Compared to the Beast, the mids on the Sonus are definitely more filled in, definitely richer. The bass on the Sonus has better texture, and the treble here, while still being detailed, is more subtle and subdued. The Beast is definitely going to be better for female vocals and overall harmonic energy, but I feel like in terms of overall resolution and resolving power, they're essentially equal. The Ignite Beast will work better for genres like J-pop, K-pop, and regular pop, female vocal focused things, but the Sonus I feel like is just a better all-rounder. It basically does everything well. It also comes with a carry pouch, and it has replacement filters in case yours get dirty or fall off. It is $10 more at MSRP, but the Sonus is sort of always on sale for 40 to 50 bucks, and I think it probably is worth the extra $10. So, to wrap things up, the Sonus is the most balanced sounding of this whole group. I prefer it to the Ignite Beast because of the better bass, the more filled in mids, and the reduced treble energy while still being detailed. Of the two, it's the better all-rounder. The Gumiho has a much nicer accessories package compared to the Beast, but it feels like a prototype for the tuning that the Beast has, and I just think the tuning is better executed on the Beast overall. The EW200 is a bit complicated. These two are extremely similar, and the choice of which one to get honestly comes down to how you perceive the brightness on each set, which shells you prefer, how much money you have, if the carry pouch is important to you, and honestly, how sensitive you are to the BA sort of sound. It doesn't bother me at all. It really only bothers me when the BA is right at the tip of the nozzle and it's screaming into your ear, but that's not the case here. I think it's very well executed here. This is a single DD, so if you prefer the sound of a single DD, definitely get the EW200. Finally, if you have the Wyvern and you're looking to upgrade, this is a good option, but only if you're okay with that brighter sound and really having the exact same accessories package. One last note, I did want to compare this to the new Tangzu Yuhuanji. They're the same price, they're both sort of bright leaning, but I'll cover that comparison in my Yuhuanji review, which is already scripted and coming very soon. Okay, the time has come to put these up on my AudioAmigo Arbitrary rating scale. So, let's recap. These are a bright V shape that I think honestly sounds pretty nice. I do think these can be sharp and fatiguing for some people, and I can see people won't like that. I did get some, slightly overblown sharpness on cymbals and other percussion, depending on the song I was listening to, but it wasn't anything awful. It didn't fatigue me enough to want to stop listening, is what I'll say. As I said earlier, I think Kinera really wanted to make you feel the presence of the balanced armature, and I think they succeeded here. Overall, it's a bit bright and sharp, but I honestly like it. What I don't like, however, is the packaging and included accessories. Every other set here, and most sets at $50, have some sort of carry pouch or case included in the box, and a second set of ear tips or a third set of ear tips. All I'm going to say is that if you look at these two side by side, you're basically paying $20 more for a balanced armature and a set of ear tips, and you get a brighter tuning. That's really it. All things considered here, I'm going to put the Ignite Beast in But I Like This right alongside the Wyvern. It's definitely not the best value in this price range. I don't feel like it's a fantastic all-rounder due to that bright sharpness that it can have on some tracks. The shape is definitely going to be a deal breaker for some people. But I honestly think it's a nicely detailed set with really nice faceplates. The music sounds good on it. I personally didn't find it overly fatiguing or harsh. It's just a bit spicy. Spicy food can be fun once in a while. If you're the type of listener who loves the sort of bright, treble-focused sound, you might really like these. That actually segues really well into my recommendation. Do I recommend these? Kinda, yeah. If you're looking for your first IEM, I don't think this is necessarily for you. I find this hard to recommend for beginners because for the money you're paying, you really have a lack of accessories. And honestly, that brighter tuning, I feel, might turn people away who have no experience with IEMs. They'll think, oh, they're super, shouty or brilliant and they make my ears hurt. So I definitely would not recommend this to newcomers. If you're looking at this set as an upgrade from a budget level set, if that budget set is something like the original 7Hz Zero, and you like that sort of extra sparkle and pizzazz and excitement in your treble, I think this might work pretty well for you. But if you're coming from one of the darker sets like the QKZX HBB or even the 7Hz Zero 2, you might want to pass on this one, especially, like I said, because of that treble. But yeah, this is for people upgrading from a brighter budget set, not really for beginners, people who want a hybrid and get that sort of brighter, shimmerier sound. All right, that's going to wrap up my review for the Kinera Celest IgniteX Beast. I've been doing some first impressions listening sessions on the stuff that I've been unboxing, and honestly, I have quite a few brighter sets coming up in the next, couple of weeks. I do appreciate brighter sets. It's not that I don't like them. It's just that my library is very eclectic, and it has a decent amount of older recordings and songs that can get fatiguing if sets overblow the upper end a bit too much. I honestly don't think these are too bad. But like I said, treble sensitive, stay away from these. We'll see if that trend of acceptable upper end continues. As I mentioned before, I'm headed to Cam Jam Dallas in a few weeks. I'll make a community post on that about when I'm going to be gone, when I'm going to be back. And if any of you are in the Dallas area or planning on going to Cam Jam Dallas, I'll put some details in there for any of you who might also be going to the show. But that's going to do it for the moment. I appreciate all your continued support. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been Omar with Audio Amigo Reviews, and I will catch you all next time.